The ground was covered in sharp metal spikes, each one tall enough to pierce flesh, each one cold as ice. And yet, she sat there. Her name was Valari. Her legs were trembling, her hands tied behind her back. The spikes poked into her skin through the thin cloth of her robe. Her silver hair stuck to her face, soaked in sweat. But she didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just sat still, silent, waiting. Guards stood around her, laughing, as if it was some kind of game. One of them tossed a piece of food near her. It landed on a spike and slid off. Another guard mocked her in a cruel tone. "Come on, little alien, dance for us." Valari didn't move. She knew if she shifted even a little, the spikes would stab deeper. A crowd had gathered beyond the glass wall. They watched her like she was some animal in a cage. Some even took photos. Children pointed, adults whispered. But no one helped, because on this planet, alien girls like her had no rights. The punishment was called the spear floor. It was used to shame, not kill. And the crime? Valari had done nothing, just failed to kneel fast enough when the noble baron's son passed by. She hadn't even seen him, but that didn't matter. On this world, even a delay in bowing was seen as insult, and insult meant punishment. Behind the crowd, in the shadows of the station, a human stood. His name was Jace, a traveler, a mechanic, just another nobody in a sea of aliens. But today, he didn't feel like nobody. He couldn't stop looking at her, the way she sat there, hurt, humiliated, yet proud, still holding on to her dignity. He had seen many cruel things in this galaxy, but this was wrong. "Why doesn't anyone stop it?" he asked a local merchant beside him. The merchant laughed nervously. "Are you new here, human? She's not one of them. She's not noble, not rich, not even local. She's a dustborn, born on a poor mining moon. They hate her kind. They say she smells like dirt." Jace's jaw clenched. He didn't care where she was from. All he saw was someone in pain, someone who had no one. "Can I pay the fine? Or get her out?" Jace asked. The merchant looked scared now. "You'll get branded as a traitor if you step in. You don't understand. This isn't a fine. This is a message. They want everyone to see what happens when someone forgets their place." Jace stepped closer to the glass. Valari's body trembled, her skin bleeding where the spikes had dug in. Yet her head was still up, her eyes looking forward. That broke something inside him. He had once seen a stray dog back on Earth. It was cornered by bullies, pelted with stones. But even then, it hadn't barked. It had stared, quiet, proud, just like her. He hadn't done anything back then, but this time, he wouldn't stay silent. The guards were getting bored. One of them turned up the heat. Literally, small heaters under the metal floor glowed red. The spikes would get hotter now. The pain would increase slowly. They were enjoying this. Jace's fists tightened. He looked around. Security cameras were everywhere. Armed bots stood at each corner. If he jumped in now, they'd shoot him before he even touched her. But maybe he didn't have to jump in right away. Maybe he just needed a plan. That night, as the crowd started to leave and the guards yawned, Valari was left alone inside the clear chamber. Lights dimmed. Only one camera rotated slowly above her. Jace watched from a high balcony, hidden in shadows. He had stolen a map of the chamber from a drunk worker earlier. He had memorized the maintenance schedule. He knew when the lights would flicker. He knew when the camera would reset. But most of all, he knew he couldn't leave her there. He waited. Seconds passed like hours. Then, click, the camera turned away. Now, he moved fast, through a back tunnel, past a broken vent, through a pipe barely big enough for his body, and then he was inside. Valari looked up, her eyes wide. She tried to speak, but her lips were too dry. Jace knelt beside the floor just inches from the spikes. His voice was soft, urgent. "I'm here to help you, okay? Don't move. I'll get you out." Her lips parted, but no words came. Only a tear. Not from fear, but from hope. The first tear in days. Jace took out a small tool from his pocket, an old Earth-made plasma cutter. He aimed it at the floor edge. The metal began to glow, but he didn't notice the red light blinking behind him. He wasn't alone. Red lights blinked behind Jace, but he kept cutting. Sparks danced as his plasma tool sliced through the edge of the spike-covered floor. Valari sat frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. No one had ever helped her before, not even her own kind. "Almost done," Jace whispered, sweat rolling down his face. A soft alarm buzzed overhead. The camera had caught movement, but not clearly. Jace had only seconds before the guards returned. Valari's lips finally moved. Her voice was dry, cracked. "Why? Are you helping me?" Jace didn't stop working. "Because no one else did," he said simply. The last metal bar gave way. He reached under her arms gently, careful not to push her further into the spikes. She winced but didn't cry. He pulled her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Suddenly, heavy boots echoed in the hallway. Guards. Jace turned, holding her tightly. There was no time to go back through the tunnel. The only way out now was forward. He ran, down the long hall. Lights flashed red. Sirens screamed louder. A mechanical voice shouted warnings in the alien language. Jace didn't understand the words, but he knew what they meant. He was now a criminal. Valari leaned her head against his chest. "They will kill you for this," she whispered. "Then let's make it hard for them," he replied, his jaw tight. He dashed through a service door, past crates, past pipes, into a maintenance shaft. A map flashed in his memory. He had studied the station's structure earlier. There was a delivery port 2 levels down. If he could reach it, maybe they could slip out unseen. Behind them, guards gave chase. But they were slower, heavier, and not expecting a human to run like a soldier. Jace wasn't just a mechanic. Not really. Once, years ago, he had served in the border conflicts. He knew how to run under pressure. He knew how to survive. But this was different. This time he was running not for himself, but for her. They reached a lift, broken but partly functional. Jace slammed the old panel. Sparks flew. The lift shuddered, then dropped like a rock. Valari clung to him, her breath shaking. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" he asked, eyes on the blinking controls. "For causing this. You don't even know me." He looked at her. "I don't need to know you. I just know you didn't deserve that." The lift hit the lower level with a loud clang. He pulled her out, ducking low. This level was old, full of rust and leaking steam. No one patrolled here. They found an empty storage room. Jace laid her on a blanket of torn cloth and searched for supplies. A half-broken medkit, some clean water, a protein bar. He helped her drink. She coughed but nodded in thanks. For a moment there was silence, then Jace asked, "What's your name?" "Valari," she said softly. "Valari," he repeated. "I'm Jace. Just a traveler who couldn't look away." She stared at him for a long second. "You're strange. For a human." He smiled faintly. "I get that a lot." But before they could rest, a sound made them both freeze. A hiss. From the shadows outside the room, red eyes blinked. Security drones. "They found us," Jace whispered. He grabbed the plasma cutter again, but it was nearly drained. Only one option left. He turned to Valari. "Can you walk?" She tried to stand. Her legs shook. Blood still marked her dress. But she nodded. Together, they moved out the back door of the room, limping down another dark corridor. One of the drones flew overhead. A spotlight hit them. "Intruder alert," it shouted. Jace spun, threw a metal pipe at the drone. It struck its sensor. The machine sparked, spun wildly, and crashed into the wall. They kept moving. So, knew a place. A man he had met once in a junk market. An old alien named Brash who owed Jace a favor. If Brash was still alive. And still friendly. Maybe he could hide them. Maybe. They reached the edge of the station's junk district. Piles of scrap, broken robots, and old ships lay forgotten. The air smelled like oil and rust. Jace banged on an old metal door. No answer. Banged again. Finally, a small eye slot opened. 2 yellow eyes looked out. "You?" a rough voice said. "It's Jace. I need help." The slot closed. Silence. Then, slowly, the door creaked open. Brash stood there, big and covered in grease. He looked at Valari, then back at Jace. "What did you do?" "I saved someone," Jace said simply. Brash grunted. "That's always trouble." Then he stepped aside. "Come in, both of you. But if they come knocking, I was never here." Jace nodded. "Fair." Inside, the air was warm. Valari finally sat down on a soft cushion. Her hands shook, but her face was calm. Jace looked at her. He had saved her body, but her soul, that was still bleeding, and he didn't know why. But he wanted to heal that too. Valari sat on the cushion like she didn't know what softness meant. Her legs were wrapped in bandages now. Her arms still bore marks from the ropes. But it wasn't just her body that was hurt. It was something deeper. Jace watched her from the corner of the small room inside Brash's junkyard hideout. She hadn't spoken much since they arrived. She ate quietly, drank water in slow sips, and stared at the cracked wall like it held the answers to everything. He wanted to ask questions, but he didn't want to scare her away. Brash entered, chewing on something greasy and alien. He grunted toward Valari. "What's her story? Did she steal something?" "No," Jace said. "She didn't kneel." Brash froze. "That's it?" "She didn't bow fast enough when the Baron's son passed her in the corridor." Brash laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That boy always was a spoiled little tyrant. But this?" He looked at Valari again. "They made her sit on spikes for keeping her spine straight." "She didn't break," Jace said. "Not even once." Brash narrowed his eyes. "Then she's stronger than she looks. But that's bad news. The ones who don't break, they scare the powerful." Jace looked back at Valari. She hadn't reacted to any of this. Not until now. She whispered, "They wanted me to cry." Her voice was soft but steady. "They wanted me to beg. They wanted me to kiss their boots and say sorry for something I didn't do," she continued, eyes still on the wall. "But my mother taught me to kneel only when I believe it's right. And I didn't believe it." Jace sat beside her, careful to leave space. "Then your mother raised someone brave." Valari's eyes filled with moisture. She quickly wiped them as if ashamed. "I didn't feel brave," she said. "I felt alone." "You were," Jace replied, his voice gentle. "But not anymore." Silence sat between them for a few moments. Then Jace asked what had been burning in his chest since the beginning. "What happened to your family?" Valari hesitated. She looked at him, really looked like she was trying to decide if he was worthy of her truth. Then she spoke. "My parents were miners, Dustworld born. We had nothing, but we were proud. When I was 10, my father joined a worker protest against the Baron's mining taxes. They called it a riot. Soldiers came. He never came home." Jace stayed quiet. Valari continued. "My mother hid me. For years we lived in the shadows, moving place to place. Then one night someone betrayed her. She was taken. I was left behind. I've been hiding ever since." She looked down at her bruised arms. "They didn't just punish me for not kneeling. They punished me for existing." Jace clenched his fists. "That's not justice. It's fear," Valari said. "They're afraid someone like me might make others stand up too." Jace leaned back, the pieces fitting together in his mind. "You weren't just another poor girl. You were the daughter of a rebel miner. That's why they watched you. That's why the punishment was public." "They wanted a message," Valari said bitterly. "But maybe I gave them the wrong one. Brash stepped forward. If that's true, they won't stop hunting you. Or him. He nodded toward Jace. You're both ghosts now. Jace stood. Then it's time we disappear properly. Brash raised an eyebrow. You got a plan, hero? Jace smiled faintly. Not yet. But I know where to start. He pulled out a small data chip from his boot. While sneaking through the punishment zone, I hacked their camera loop. I didn't just erase our escape. I downloaded the real footage. The whole thing, how she was punished without cause. Brash's eyes widened. You're insane. Maybe, Jace said. But this could help us. We send it to the right people. Off-world reporters, trade networks, even rival houses. The Empire hides its shame. What if we shine a light on it? Valari looked at him, confused. Why would you go this far for me? Jace looked her in the eyes. Because no one else did. Because I saw you. And I saw someone who still had pride even when everything was taken. He paused. That's not weakness, Valari. That's power. Valari said nothing, but a tiny flicker of hope lit in her eyes. Brash sighed. I'll rig a transmitter. Low burst, harder to trace. But once it goes out, we move fast. They'll come. Let them, Jace said. Valari slowly stood, her legs still weak, but her eyes steady. If they come, she said softly, this time, I won't be alone. Rain poured from the sky like it had waited years to fall. Fat drops slammed against the metal roofs of the junk district. Each puddle shimmered, with reflections of neon lights. The city looked alive, glowing and twitching as if watching every move from above. Inside Brash's hidden workshop, the message had been sent. The footage was real, raw. It showed Valari sitting on spikes, bleeding and silent. No edits, no lies. Just the truth. Jace had transmitted it to off-world news networks and whistleblower channels. It was a risk, a big one. But he knew that the Empire feared something more than rebellion. Exposure. Now the rain was their cover. But it was also their clock. We don't have much time, Brash said as he packed a small hover cart with supplies. They'll scramble every drone, every soldier. Once they trace the signal, they'll come, Valari whispered. She stood near the doorway, wrapped in a dark cloak. Her legs still hurt, but she walked better now, stronger. Her silver hair was pulled back, her eyes focused. Something had changed in her. She was no longer just running, she was ready. Jace tightened the straps of his satchel. We need to reach the freight tunnels under the station. They lead to the outer sectors. There's an old cargo ship hidden near Bay 9. It can't fly, but it can roll. If we get there, we disappear. Brash raised a brow. You sure about this? No, Jace said honestly. But we don't have a better choice. The door opened with a loud hiss. Cool wind rushed in, and the rain welcomed them like a warning. Valari stepped out first. Her feet splashed into muddy water, but she didn't stop. Jace followed closely behind. Brash stayed back, guarding the door, shotgun in hand. If you make it out, Brash shouted, don't forget, this place owes you nothing, keep moving. Jace gave a short nod and vanished into the alley with Valari. The junk district was a maze of rusted metal, broken ship parts and hanging wires. The rain helped. It blurred sensors. It confused heat scans. But it also made it hard to hear approaching footsteps. As they turned a corner, a security drone passed overhead. Jace pulled Valari into the shadows, his arm against her back. They stayed still. The drone paused. Its scanner blinked, then moved on. Valari let out a soft breath. That was close. Too close, Jace replied. We keep going. They ran, again slipping past fences and through forgotten storage rooms. Every step echoed. Every shadow felt alive. Finally, they reached the old tunnel gate. It was sealed. Jace pulled out a small explosive charge. This will open it. But it'll be loud, Valari nodded. We don't have time to be quiet. He set the charge, grabbed her hand, and pulled her back. Boom! The gate burst open, metal flying. They rushed inside. Darkness swallowed them. Only the red glow of emergency lights showed the way. The freight tunnel smelled of old oil and dust. Rats, both alien and human-sized, scattered as they ran through. Halfway through the tunnel, Jace stopped. "What is it?" Valari asked. He knelt, feeling the floor. Vibration. Behind them, in the distance, the hum of engines. "They're coming on bikes," Jace said. "Fast." Valari looked at a side hatch. "Where does that go?" "Maintenance rail," he replied. "It's better than standing here." They slipped through the hatch and into a narrow corridor with a single magnetic track running through its center. An old rail cart sat unused. Jace jumped in, hot-wired. With shaking fingers it sputtered, buzzed, then roared to life. "Hold on." The cart jerked forward, racing down the rail. The walls blurred. Sparks flew as loose wires slapped overhead. Behind them, the sound of hoverbikes entered the tunnel. Jace looked back. "They're on our tail!" Valari crawled to the back of the cart. She picked up a rusted metal rod and waited. The bikes got closer. Jace swerved left, then right. The cart wasn't meant to move this fast. But they had no choice. A bike came too close. Valari swung the rod. Crack! The drone pilot crashed against the tunnel wall, metal and fire everywhere. She looked shocked. Jace smiled. "Nice swing. I used to fight with pickaxes," she muttered. "This was lighter." They shot out of the tunnel at full speed, crashing through a loose wall and tumbling into open space. The cart flipped. Jace rolled across wet ground. Valari landed hard but safe. He crawled over to her. "Are you okay?" She nodded. Still breathing. They looked up. They had made it. Bay 9. In front of them stood an old cargo ship, half buried in dirt, vines growing on its sides. Jace grinned. "She's ugly, but she'll roll." They rushed toward it. He opened the hatch. Alarms buzzed, systems whined, but the engine coughed to life. As soldiers appeared at the far end of the lot, the ship began to move. Slowly, then faster. Blaster. Shots bounced off its hull. Inside, Valari grabbed the controls. "Where to?" Jace looked at the stars through the cracked window. "Anywhere they can't find us." Valari nodded. For now. The stars above looked cold and endless. The cargo ship groaned as it rolled across the wasteland outside the city, old wheels grinding over broken stone and sand. Its engines were too damaged to fly, but they could still carry Jace and Valari far from the Empire's eye. Inside, the ship was dark. Dust floated in the air like tiny ghosts. Wires hung from the ceiling and old crates were stacked along the walls. But in that moment, it felt like safety. Jace sat beside a control panel, checking fuel levels. "We've got enough for 2 days. After that, we'll have to find shelter." Valari sat on the floor near a small heater, her knees pulled to her chest. She watched the stars through a broken skylight above. "You ever been free before?" Jace asked softly. Valari didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "I don't think I know what freedom feels like." Jace nodded. "We'll find out together." The ship moved through the dead zones, areas outside the Empire's surveillance. No satellites, no patrols, just quiet deserts and ancient ruins left behind from forgotten wars. On the second night, the ship reached a narrow canyon filled with silver rocks that sparkled under starlight. It looked like something out of a dream. Jace parked the ship inside a natural cave hidden from above. "This is it," he said. "We rest here." Valari stepped outside, her feet touching real ground for the first time in weeks. No walls, no guards, just the wind and the stars. She closed her eyes. It felt unreal. Inside the ship, Jace found a strange crate in the back storage bay. It was locked, sealed with a code written in an old alien dialect. He called Valari over. "You recognize this?" She stared at it, her eyes widening. "That's my family's mark." "What?" "This crate. It belonged to my mother's crew. She used to talk about hidden supply caches, safe places where rebels stored things in case they had to run. But I thought it was just a story." Jace pulled out a data tool and scanned the lock. "Looks like it needs a voice key." Valari stepped closer. She hesitated, then said a single word in her native tongue, something soft and ancient. Click. The crate opened. Inside was a folded battle flag with her family crest, a small data cube, and a strange silver bracelet covered in glowing symbols. Valari stared at the items like they were from another life. Jace picked up the data cube. Want me to see what's on it? She nodded. He plugged it into the console. A hologram flickered to life. A woman appeared, strong, with silver hair like Valari's. Her voice was calm but urgent. To whoever finds this, know that our fight was never about hate. It was about dignity. They can break our bodies, but not our spirit. My daughter, if you see this, you are the last flame. Carry it wisely. The hologram ended. Valari sat down slowly. She was alive when she recorded this. She whispered. She believed we could still change things. Jace handed her the bracelet. Do you know what this is? She shook her head. No, but it's warm. Suddenly, the bracelet lit up brighter. Symbols shifted across its surface, forming a language Jace had never seen before. Okay, he muttered. That's not normal. Valari's hand trembled, but she didn't drop it. I think it's reacting to my bloodline. Jace stood slowly. Maybe this isn't just a hiding spot. Maybe this ship was meant to find you. Outside, a storm started to form, quiet rumbles rolling across the sky. Valari stood up. We need to learn what's in this bracelet. Maybe. There's a place it's leading us to. Jace nodded. Then we follow it. But what if the Empire tracks us again? She asked. He gave a small smile. Then we run again. Or we fight. But we don't kneel. For the first time, she smiled too. Not wide, not bright, but real. That night, as the wind howled outside and the stars watched from above, Jace and Valari sat beside each other in the ship, looking over old maps and data logs from the crate. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were something else. Something the Empire hadn't expected. A spark in the dark. A girl with legacy in her blood, and a human who didn't look away. A blue hologram flickered above the city's tallest tower, floating in the night sky like a ghost. It showed her face. Valari, dirty, bruised, silver hair tangled. The image was from the punishment chamber, her, sitting on the spikes, eyes full of silent fire. A voice boomed across the district. Wanted, fugitive, 100,000 credits, dead or alive. And then another face appeared beside hers. Jace, dangerous human, assisted in escape, 50,000 credits, approach with caution. Posters appeared on every street, markets paused. Bounty hunters smiled. The Empire had made it official. Valari and Jace were now the hunted. In the hidden canyon, the ship shook slightly as a sandstorm roared outside. Inside, Jace stared at the old radio screen. They've done it, he muttered. They're calling in freelancers, not just soldiers. Valari sat near the back, wrapping the glowing bracelet in cloth. How many? All of them, Jace replied. Every greedy merc from here to the edge of the sector. Half the galaxy just got offered a fortune. Valari's hands tightened. They really want me dead. They're scared. The video we sent is spreading. Small protests have started on 2 border planets. Your face is becoming a symbol. I didn't ask to be a symbol. Jace looked at her. But you are. And symbols scare rulers more than weapons. Valari stayed quiet for a moment, then asked, What do we do now? Jace sighed. We don't stay in one place. We keep moving, stay ahead. We find out what that bracelet is. And we survive. He opened the floor panel and pulled out an old weapon case. Inside was a blaster, a knife, and a folded vest. He handed the vest to her. It's ugly, but it'll stop small shots. She took it. Thanks. You ever used a blaster? She nodded once. I had to once, when they took my mother. Jace gave her a sharp look, then softened. You don't have to explain, just be ready. By nightfall, they left the canyon. The cargo ship, nicknamed Rustbird by Jace, creaked along the abandoned highway. They passed burned vehicles, old bones, and rusted signposts pointing to towns that no longer existed. Jace kept one hand on the steering rod, the other near his weapon. Villari sat at the radar, watching the screen. "We've got something," he tensed. "What is it?" "Small ship. Fast. Not Empire. Bounty hunter," Jace said immediately. He turned sharply, driving the Rustbird off-road and into a valley of jagged black rocks, but the small ship followed. It hovered above them now, sleek and deadly. Then it fired. The Rustbird shook as sparks flew from its left side. Jace cursed. "They're not playing." He turned hard again, then slammed a button near the dashboard. "What did you do?" Villari shouted. "I dropped the side panel." A heavy piece of metal detached from the ship and smashed into the rocks below, creating a wave of dust that shot into the air. The hunter's ship swerved, blinded. It crashed into a cliff wall and exploded in a ball of fire. Villari gripped the seat. "That actually worked." Jace grinned. "I used to work salvage. I know how to make junk fight back." Later that night, they stopped under a giant dead tree shaped like a claw. Jace set up a small fire beside the ship. Villari sat beside him, the bracelet in her lap. She whispered something in her native tongue. The bracelet glowed brighter. A tiny map projected from it. Stars and systems, spinning slowly. Jace leaned closer. "What is that?" "I think it's a path," she said softly. "A route my mother marked. It leads far, beyond the Empire's reach." "To what?" "I don't know. But she called it Sanctum in the stories. A place for those who still remember honor." Jace stared at the map. "Then maybe that's where we go." Suddenly a beep came from the scanner. Another signal. Another hunter. Coming fast. Villari stood. "We're not safe here." "No," Jace said, rising to his feet. "But now we have a destination." They rushed back inside the ship. Jace started the engines. "Set course," he told her. "Follow the stars your mother left behind." As the Rustbird roared to life and rolled into the darkness, Villari looked out at the horizon. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just running away. She was heading somewhere, toward something, toward freedom maybe, or war. But whatever it was, she would face it standing. The palace stood tall, made of black glass and steel, like a blade piercing the clouds. Soldiers lined the steps. Flags of the Empire waved in the wind. Cameras hovered in the air, ready to record every breath, every blink, every lie. Inside the grand hall, nobles gathered, faces full of pride, fear, and control. In the center sat Lord Carvin, the same man who had ordered Villari to kneel. The same man who laughed when she was placed on the spike-covered floor, and today he was smiling again, but not for long. A soft alert blinked on his wrist screen. "They're here," said his advisor. "At the gate." Carvin raised an eyebrow. "She actually came back?" "Yes, my lord, with the human." Carvin stood slowly. "Good, let the galaxy see how justice is done." Outside, the crowd waited. Reporters from 10 systems gathered. The leaked video had reached millions. Protests had exploded across colonies. Eyes were now on this trial. The Empire had no choice but to act like it followed laws. Villari stepped from the Rustbird wearing the rebel vest, her silver hair blowing in the wind. The glowing bracelet was hidden under her sleeve. Beside her walked Jace, calm but alert. His blaster was hidden, but his courage wasn't. People whispered as they passed, "That's the girl from the spike chamber. She's just a child." Is that the human who saved her? They're brave, or stupid. Guards surrounded them but didn't touch them. Not here, not now. Too many eyes were watching. Inside the trial chamber, Carvin sat high above them. "You stand accused of rebellion," he declared, his voice loud, full of false authority. "You insulted nobility, fled custody, and shared illegal footage to outsiders. Valari looked up at him. I did not rebel, she said calmly. I remained standing. That was my only crime. Carvin laughed. You were told to kneel before my son. You refused. I didn't see him, she said. But even if I had, I would not kneel for cruelty. Gasps echoed in the room. Carvin's smile faded. You dare say that now? Here? I say it now, Valari replied louder, so others will hear it too. Jace stepped forward and placed a data cube on the table. The footage wasn't fake. It was real, and this cube holds the rest. Audio logs, voice threats, bribes, to guards and orders signed by your hand. Carvin's face tightened. One of the nobles on the left asked, Is this true, Lord Carvin? Another stood. We must see the evidence. Carvin slammed his fist on the table. I am the law in this world. Valari took a deep breath and walked to the center of the room. She pulled back her sleeve, revealing the glowing bracelet. Then, let the law speak, she said. The bracelet lit the room with a soft blue light. A hidden voice activated, her mother's voice. This is Commander Thaleen of the Dustborn Rebellion. If you hear this, then the Empire has failed you again. We stood for dignity. We died for it. But our truth lives in the blood of my daughter, another noble stood whispering. Thaleen, the rebel leader. The Empire said she was a terrorist, someone else muttered. But this sounds like a mother. The room shifted. Eyes changed. Doubt filled the air. Carvin rose from his seat, rage in his eyes. Enough. Seize them both. But no one moved. Even the guards looked at each other in confusion. Carvin shouted again. Seize them. Still, nothing. Then, something happened that no one expected. Valari stepped forward, lowered herself slowly, and kneeled. But not to Carvin. She kneeled before the people. I kneel for those who were silenced. I kneel for those who were broken. I kneel for my mother, and for a future where no girl is punished for standing tall. Tears filled the eyes of an old noblewoman in the back. And then, one by one, others began to kneel too, even Jace, even the guards. The weight of her courage had shifted the room. Carvin's voice cracked. This is a circus, you're all fools. But no one was listening anymore. Later that day, the footage from the trial spread faster than the first. Valari's kneel became a symbol across systems. The Empire couldn't stop it. Too many had seen. Carvin was removed from power by his own council. Valari was cleared of all charges, and the bounty was cancelled. Jace and Valari stood at the edge of the old starport, looking out at a new ship. Not stolen, not rusted. This one was gifted by supporters. Where to now? Jace asked. Valari looked at the stars. To the place my mother spoke of. The sanctum. A place where truth still matters. Jace smiled. I'll follow you. She looked at him. No. We go, together. And as the engines hummed and the stars opened before them, the girl who once sat on spikes now soared among the stars.